Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith. If you want to follow me there, watch the show there as well. Or maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your app. Speaking of Indy's Sports Ticket, you should head over to indiesportstickets.com because Indy Sports Ticket is currently on Teddy Bear Patrol. Throughout the month of June, we are collecting teddy bears that our local area law enforcement agencies can give to children involved in accidents and other traumatic situations. I have one of these bears, got it when I was like 2 years old. I'll never forget it. So yeah, if you have extra teddy bears laying around, you should definitely go and donate them. Please check out indiesportsticket.com for a link to donate or drop off your new teddy bear donations at our studios or at Hensley Legal Offices in Fishers. This Saturday, we're hosting a kickoff event at Hensley Legal from noon to 2. Come out, bring a bear, play some games. It's going to be a blast. The Indy Sports Ticket Teddy Bear Patrol is sponsored by Hensley Legal. Once again, you can donate now at indiesportsticket.com. Now, Pacers, they're rolling. Everyone is on this Pacers train. Everyone's excited, and it's great. I'm excited. I can't wait for the NBA Finals. I'm jacked up. I'm ready to go. Thursday can't get here fast enough. The fact that it's Tuesday really kind of annoys me. And there's been a lot of discussion, and there's going to continue to be, even though there shouldn't be, discussion around this finals being the Paul George Bowl, right? And how both of these teams, traded Paul George to fuel their rebuilds. And that's going to be part of this, sadly. I know every Pacer fan out there is probably sick and tired of hearing about Paul George. I'm tired of Paul George. And the guy doesn't even play in games. All he does is talk, and why he's allowed to talk, I don't know. Like the guy's never won anything. Like at least with the Draymond Green podcast, like that dude's won 4 titles. So I don't know. Anyway, the Pacers' current star is the antithesis of Paul George. Tyrese Haliburton is about the team. Seems like he actually wants to be here long term. He doesn't seem like the type to be like, I want to be here long term, and then ask for like his, a trade a week later. I'm sure an NBA Finals appearance has fueled some of that desire from Tyrese Haliburton to stick around, but he's a Midwest guy. Tyrese Haliburton kind of feels like Indianapolis. On the surface, I got to be honest. When I moved here, I wasn't excited. I was like, Indianapolis, is that really a fun city? And then I got here, and I was like, oh, this city's amazing. Love it here. That's why I've been here for the last 4 years. Now, Haliburton, I think for casual viewers, doesn't seem like he has a ton of flair to his game, but he does. The celebrations are awesome. You can see the influence that WWE has had on him throughout his life, doing the choke sign after that big comeback against the Knicks, doing the big ball celebration after the game winner against Cleveland. Like, the dude has a nice swagger. And he plays with a nice little flair. But if you don't watch him consistently, you would never know that. I think a lot of people have been introduced to Tyrese Haliburton throughout this year's playoff run and last year's playoff run. And I also think another similarity between the city of Indianapolis and Tyrese Haliburton is like the people in Indianapolis, really people in the Midwest in general, unless you're from Chicago, they're stereotyped as friendly. Tyrese Haliburton seems like a friendly dude. He's got a nice smile. My buddy is a huge Kings fan. He lived in Sacramento when Haliburton was playing out there. And whenever we talk about Tyrese Haliburton, he always talks about how involved Tyrese Haliburton was in that community. Like there's clips of Tyrese Haliburton in the preseason or before the season started and like local Kroger's handing out tickets and gift cards and things. And he just seems like a nice guy. That's another thing I think that he has in common with the city of Indianapolis. It's another thing that just kind of makes him feel like Indianapolis. But the biggest thing that Tyrese Haliburton has in common with the city of Indianapolis is his love for basketball. Indianapolis is infatuated with basketball, and Tyrese Haliburton is a basketball savant, and I mean that in every way, shape, and form. You can just see it in the way that this guy plays. There's a short list of NBA players that I would call basketball savants. There are plenty of basketball players who can get a bucket. Every player in the NBA now can go stand in the corner for 18 seconds, and if the ball's thrown to them, they can catch and shoot and make a corner three. There's plenty of big guys who can set a screen and roll to the rim. Those guys are specialists. They are not basketball savants. The savants are the players who can do everything and understand the game at a high level. Players like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, I would even put on this list. Nikola Jokic. Tyrese Haliburton belongs on that list as well. He is incredibly smart. He sees things before they happen. He can score, not at will, but with relative ease. And the biggest thing, though, when I think about basketball savants, are guys who can play any style. And I think Tyrese Haliburton can play any style of basketball. If you want him to slow the game down and grind it out, he can do that. If you want to run a James Harden offense and just have him make every decision and have him look to score a little bit more than what he does now, he can do that, and you're going to win games doing that. But like most great point guards, he's just at his best when his team plays fast. Jason Kidd and Steve Nash could play any style. They were just at their best when they got out and ran. Tyrese Haliburton, I believe he's the same way. And the Pacers have done everything they can to surround Tyrese Haliburton with players who can run and shoot. Pace and space. That is who the Indiana Pacers have been ever since they acquired Tyrese Haliburton. And I still think the most important thing in sports is you have to know who you are, both as a team and as a player. As soon as you reach a point where you don't know who you are, things are not going to go very well for you. And that is true not only in sports, but that's true in life as well. And as soon as the Pacers acquired Tyrese Haliburton, they knew exactly what they had to do. They needed athletic dudes and shooters. That is what they needed. Tyrese Haliburton gave them an identity in 2021, and after the Indiana Pacers punched their ticket to the NBA Finals, Coach Carlisle was asked about the rebuild around Tyrese Haliburton. And here's what Coach Carlisle had to say.
If you have the right player to build around, it can happen much faster than you think. And so getting Tyrese made it very clear what our identity as a team needed to be. We needed to be a fast-paced team with shooting. And we had some good shooting at the time. But, when we did the Brogdon trade, that brought Neesmith on board. Nembhard was a developing player. Mathurin shoots the ball well. Walker shoots the ball well. And Shepherd is a guy that is a great runner and a great shooter. And then look, the Siakam trade took things to another level. And it took Pascal, a couple of weeks to get integrated because, they weren't playing this fast in Toronto. But he did, and he got integrated while Tyrese was coming back from the hamstring last year. And, there were some clunky moments. And we were on the West Coast at the time. And so, but, we got it together down the stretch, and we won our last game of the season to avoid the play-in. And we're able to go on a run, and certainly we were aided by the fact that there were some missing players with other teams, but you still got to win the games. You still got to go into Madison Square Garden and win Game 7, and on the road. And those guys did that, and we had a humbling experience against Boston, but we learned some things, and those things have helped us this year.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about the rebuild and how when you add Tyrese Haliburton, he gives you an immediate identity. And they just have totally bought into that. From the moment they added Tyrese Haliburton on February 8th, 2022, everything has been about adding/keeping speed and shooting. It also helps when you get Buddy Hield in that trade as well when it comes to the shooting. I didn't really like Buddy Hield because I don't think that guy could guard me, but hey, whatever. 2 days later, February 10th, 2022, the Pacers make a trade for Jalen Smith. He wasn't around very long, but he was big and he could shoot it. That summer, they move Malcolm Brogdon and they add Aaron Nesmith, a very athletic wing who can run and shoot the basketball. They made some other small trades here and there that kind of impacted the draft. I'll touch on those later when I talk about the different guys that the Pacers have added via the draft since making that trade for Tyrese Haliburton. The following summer, they trade for Obi Toppin, another dude who can get out on the break and run and has turned into a pretty solid three-point shooter. Then 18 months ago, they make the trade for Pascal Siakam. And if you watch the Knicks series, then you know all he did in that series was run every chance that he got. He's also turned in the best three-point shooting season of his career this year. Last year, they made a late-season trade for Doug McDermott, who can shoot it. Then this December, amidst all the issues that they had with their backup centers, by the way, Isaiah Jackson, that's a guy who can run the break well. James Wiseman, very athletic big, who can get out and run. They traded him to Toronto, though, just before the trade deadline this year. And they also made a trade for Thomas Bryant when they didn't have a backup center. What can Thomas Bryant do? Oh, that's right. He can go stand in the corner, and he can knock down threes. And then you look at the draft and what they've done. They just continue to add athleticism and shooting. Benedict Mathurin, that's a guy who can score it. He can kind of shoot it. There are nights where I'm like, yeah, love his jumper tonight. And then there's other nights where I'm like, I don't know. He's big. He's athletic. He can get out. He can run. Jarris Walker, very good athlete. Shot 40% from three this year and last year in limited time. Ben Shepherd is a guy who can really shoot it. Johnny Furphy, their rookie this year. He's a player who projects as a guy who's going to be a pretty solid role player at some point because he can shoot it, and he's tall and he's long. Andrew Nembhard's the only player that they've drafted that isn't great off the ball. He's good on the ball, but he's not great off the ball in transition, and he's not a good three-point shooter. The guy shot 29% from three in the regular season, but I could make a real argument that he has been their most important draft pick. Yes, they needed to add shooting and athleticism so they could get out and run and do all the things that they wanted to do offensively around Tyrese Haliburton. But they also knew that they had to find a way to acquire an elite defender to play alongside Tyrese Haliburton. Andrew Nembhard was not a great player, not a great defender at Gonzaga when he was in college, but he has turned into the perfect running mate for Tyrese Haliburton, and he's bought into the defensive side of the basketball, and he has become a very large part of this rebuild that has landed the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. This rebuild has been incredible from the Pacers. There are teams like the Charlotte Hornets and the Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans and the Chicago Bulls and the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz. They've been all those teams have been rebuilding for forever. All of them have had a high draft pick at one point or another, and they're still bad. The Pacers rebuilt in 3 years. They had a 3-year playoff drought, and in the 4th year, last year, they made the Eastern Conference Finals upon their return to the playoffs. And in the 5th year, this year, they're in the NBA Finals. This has been one of the most impressive and one of the fastest rebuilds we've seen from an NBA team ever. The Thunder are loaded, but it took them what feels like forever to get to this point. But 3 years after not making the playoffs, the Pacers have put together back-to-back postseasons that have been incredibly impressive. And shout out to the Phoenix Suns because none of this happens without them. Remember when the Pacers offered DeAndre Ayton the max? And the Suns matched? That meant that DeAndre Ayton never became a Pacer. Could you imagine if the money Pascal Siakam was getting was currently going to the backup center in Portland? I don't think the Pacers would be in the NBA Finals if that was the case. There's always a little bit of luck in every rebuild. Okay. That was the Pacers version of the luck. It was the Suns matching the offer sheet for DeAndre Ayton. For the Thunder, Jalen Williams is a stud, and they got him 12th. In most drafts, Chet Holmgren would have gone number 1. But the year that the Thunder had the number 2 overall pick, Paolo Banchero was also available. So Chet Holmgren got past the first pick when in most, not all, but most NBA drafts, he would have gone number 1. It is, to me, very amazing to see how these two teams have rebuilt in pretty different manners. Like, yes, I know the Thunder made that trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but everything else for them has pretty much been through the draft. Very impressive what Sam Presti has done. And then you look at the Pacers. Most of their rebuild has come through trades. It's very impressive what each of these teams have done and how differently they've done it. But both teams definitely deserve to be in the NBA Finals based on how they've rebuilt. Right? They didn't just, send away 7 picks for some superstar. They've both been incredibly smart, and I like seeing smart front offices get rewarded. And hopefully, it's going to be a great NBA Finals. Hopefully, I really hope it is, because both teams deserve a great NBA Finals based off of how they've built their respective teams. And the Indiana Pacers are large underdogs going into this series, but that's fine. They were big underdogs against Cleveland. They were underdogs against the Knicks as well. This Thunder team feels a little bit different, though, than both of them. They've been the best team in the NBA all year. No questions asked. They have been outstanding in every way, shape, and form. And there's one thing about them that sticks out above the rest. Coach Carlisle went on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and he talked about this. And it is the toughest thing about playing the Thunder. Like, tougher than a $2 steak kind of tough. And I'll tell you what it is when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, head over there and subscribe. Maybe watching on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. If you want to follow me there, maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, Thursday night, it can't get here fast enough. It can't get here fast enough. I am beyond ready to watch this Indiana Pacers team take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Pacers are plus 500 underdogs in this series. Everyone I've listened to, everyone I've heard, has picked the Thunder in 5 or 6 games. It's probably what I'm going to do too, because this Thunder team is loaded, stacked, ready to go. And I'm so intrigued to see how this series goes. And I think you know pretty well who the Pacers are. The toughest thing about playing against the Pacers is the pace with which they play. You know, you always have to be locked in on defense because if you score, they're coming right back at you. In the half court, they continue to play at just this frenetic pace where the ball is moving all over the place and the Miles Turner setting screens on and off the ball and Aaron Nesmith is setting screens or he's running around like a madman and then Pascal Siakam is posting up or he's screening and Andrew Nembhard's rolling or initiating offense or spacing out to the corner. And if Andrew Nembhard's initiating the offense, then Tyrese Haliburton's running off of screens. And it's just like there's always something happening. It is very rare that the Pacers offense reaches a point where everyone is just standing around watching whoever has the basketball as they pound the air out of it. The ball usually has energy. And when the ball has energy, it's usually easier to score. That's the toughest thing about playing the Pacers. You and I know that because we've watched them play all year. What about the Thunder, though? What is the toughest part about playing this Oklahoma City Thunder team? And when I ask that question, there's a relatively obvious answer that I think a lot of people would go with that haven't really watched this team, and that would be stopping Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this year's MVP. I would disagree. The toughest thing about playing against the Oklahoma City Thunder is this wave of defensive guards that they have. Like, forget Jalen Williams, who was second team all defense this year. Forget Chet Holmgren, a guy who's probably going to win a Defensive Player of the Year award at some point. Forget Isaiah Hartenstein, who is an excellent rim protector in his own right. Just look at the guards, because they have 3 guards that either have been or will be all defensive selections at some point in their careers. Lou Dort was first team all defense this year. That dude's one of the best defenders in the NBA. Alex Caruso has been named to all defensive teams twice in his career. He doesn't even start. He comes off the bench. Cason Wallace is a guy who will be named to an all-defensive team at some point in his career. And they just rotate those 3 dudes. And they're going to put them on Haliburton all series long. And it is going to be the toughest series Tyrese Haliburton has ever played in from an offensive standpoint, given what those 3 defenders, or given the challenge that those 3 defenders are going to give him. Because all 3 of those guys are elite on-ball defenders. And Coach Carlisle went on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and he was talking about this Thunder team. And he talks a little bit about the stars of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then he talks about this defense that is tenacious and nasty and whatever word you want to use to say tough.
I mean, they're great. They've got the MVP. They've got Jalen Williams, who's a second star. They've got Chet Holmgren, who's really their 3rd star, and then they've got a supporting cast that's really, really good, and they really defend. You know, Caruso and Dort, Williams and Gilgeous-Alexander. These guys are all elite defenders, and not only do they defend well, but they take the ball from the opponent. And so I believe during the playoffs, they've been number one in points off turnovers. So a lot of this for us, we're going to have to do a good job with ball security. I know that's a football term too. We're going to have to take care of it on the one hand, but we're going to have to play fast, and we're going to have to move it around a lot, and we're going to have to rebound it, because the possession stats in every sport really do carry the day.
Coach Carlisle right there on the Pat McAfee show yesterday talking about this Oklahoma City Thunder team and how they've got stars and how they're really good and all that kind of stuff. But he mainly talks about the defense and the importance of taking care of the basketball, because the Thunder force more turnovers than anyone else in the NBA. They also turn it over the least amount of anyone in the NBA, and part of that is because they don't really pass the ball very much. And, you know, for me, it starts with those three guys that I mentioned: Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, and Lou Dort. Some people would throw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander into that. I wouldn't. I don't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an all-league defender. He's a good defender. Don't get me wrong. I just think he appears better than what he is because he's never defending the other team's best player. He's defending the other team's fourth best option on the floor, while Jalen Williams and one of those other three guys I mentioned are defending the best on-ball offensive threats on the other team. And when you look at the amount of turnovers that Oklahoma City forces, it emphasizes why it's so important to have a real point guard when you play against the Thunder. I firmly believe that if the Timberwolves had allowed Mike Conley to initiate more of their offense, they would have been better off having Anthony Edwards work more off the ball. The issue is a lot of players in the NBA nowadays, especially the best players, they grow up with the ball in their hands and they don't know how to play off the ball. Anthony Edwards struggled to get the Timberwolves into the flow of their offense against the Thunder. Julius Randle couldn't initiate anything offensively. It was very problematic for Minnesota, and it's why they lost that series 4-1. Part of why the Nuggets had so much success against the Thunder was because Nikola Jokic was just able to get the Nuggets into their offense. Like the Thunder, they pick you up so far away from the lane, and they make your life miserable whenever you're dealing with them. And as soon as Nikola Jokic went off the floor and they asked Jamal Murray to run their offense, he's a shooting guard, not a point guard, their offense went to crap. Having Tyrese Haliburton and Andrew Nembhard for the Pacers is huge in this series. The Pacers shouldn't, they might, but they shouldn't have these tough stretches that the Timberwolves had consistently and the Nuggets had whenever Nikola Jokic left the floor, where they have 4 straight possessions where they look up, there's 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and they haven't even started their offense yet. They're still dribbling the basketball 30 feet away from the bucket. That, to me, is part of the value of having a real point guard. And the Pacers also shouldn't turn the ball over as much as the Thunder's former opponents did because of that. And that is going to be so important in this series. Can Andrew Nembhard and Tyrese Haliburton run the offense? Can they get the Pacers into whatever they want to get into? That is one of the most difficult things about this Thunder team. And I'll be interested to see how the Pacers look when Tyrese Haliburton goes to the bench. That's those minutes. Usually we don't talk about them because we love the bench that the Pacers have, and rightfully so. You could argue the Pacers have the best bench in the NBA. It's them or it's Oklahoma City. The issue is TJ McConnell runs the bench unit. And I know we love TJ McConnell because everyone loves a short white guy who can give buckets. TJ McConnell's a good player, but he's a role player. And the interesting thing about role players is every series isn't made for them. Miles Turner's a role player. That series against the Knicks was not a good series for him. Didn't move his feet well enough to defend Towns, didn't rebound well enough to negate what Mitchell Robinson does well. I think this is going to be a better series for him. If he's able to guard Hartenstein, if he's having to guard Chet Holmgren, then that'll be rough. But I don't think this is going to be a good series for TJ McConnell because that guy dribbles himself into trouble all the time. And there is a ton of trouble to be found against the Thunder defense. If TJ McConnell has games where he turns the ball over 6 times, I would not be surprised. Because this Thunder defense just swarms you. As soon as you take that 4th dribble, just put the ball on a platter and just hand it to Oklahoma City. Because they're going to come and they're going to take it from you. TJ McConnell and probably Benedict Mathurin are the only 2 guys on this Pacer team who consistently dribble themselves into trouble. And you can't have that against this Thunder defense. They will come, they will swarm you, and they will steal the basketball away from you. I think that when Tyrese Haliburton's on the floor, the Pacers will look like they belong because they're going to push the pace. They're going to get easy buckets in transition, even though the Thunder have the best transition defense in the NBA. But Tyrese Haliburton is going to find ways to make offense easy for the Pacers because that's what he does. Tyrese Haliburton just makes offense easy. They're going to be fine when he's on the floor. The issue is going to be when he's off the floor. Those are the moments when the Thunder and that defense are going to have opportunities to stack turnovers and score in transition because they, like the Pacers, also want to get out and score in transition. And that could be the thing that decides this series. Can the Pacers hang around when Tyrese Haliburton is on the bench? I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Tyrese Haliburton play 40 minutes a game in this series. He has not averaged 40 minutes a game in any of the first 3 rounds because they haven't needed him. They're going to need him to do that in this series. That's how important his decision-making is going to be and his ability to get the Pacers into the flow of their offense against this ferocious Thunder defense. And then it'll be the question of, does he get worn down at all? And that'll be a fair question given how great and tough and physical and smart this Oklahoma City Thunder defense is. And I don't mean physically he'll be fine, but like mentally. Does he turn the ball over more late if he's playing more minutes? Because, I mean, look, the Pacers never asked this dude to play 40 minutes a night in any of these playoff games, with the exception of overtime games, obviously. How does he handle it? I'm very intrigued to see. How does Coach Carlisle balance leaving him on the floor versus taking him off? Because I do think that when he's off the floor, it's going to be really tough sledding offensively for this Pacers team. Okay, we'll sit around and we'll wait and we'll see. Now, there is a blueprint. There is a formula to beating the Oklahoma City Thunder. And look, it's tough. It's very tough to execute. But when you go back and you look at the 3 games that the Thunder lost to the Nuggets, I know they lost one to Minnesota, but that was just a pretty simple, the Timberwolves' backs were against the wall. The Thunder knew that they were going to win that series. And, you're fighting a wolf that's cornered, like it's going to fight a little harder. That's what happened in that game 3. But I went back and I wanted to look at the 3 games that the Thunder lost to the Nuggets and see what happened. And it's pretty clear on how to maybe beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like I said, it's a really tough thing to do, but I'll tell you what it is when we come back here in about 3.5 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you tune in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. You can head over there and subscribe. Maybe watch it on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith. You can watch the show there. Follow me there as well. Maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app that you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, Pacers and Thunder, the NBA Finals starts on Thursday. I hate that it's so far away. We still got 2 days. Thankfully, though, Stanley Cup starts tomorrow night. I will be watching that. Very excited for it. Edmonton and Florida going at it. But you don't care about that. So let's get back to Thunder and Pacers. I talked a little bit about the defense and how important it's going to be for the Pacers to avoid turning the basketball over against the Oklahoma City Thunder if they want a chance to win the series, because turnovers fuel everything for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The other thing that's going to decide this series is Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. When they're both good, the Thunder feel impossible to beat. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be good every night. He's going to bail them out of a lot of possessions offensively because he's just that good. I mean, the dude, he's the MVP for crying out loud. Okay, I don't think I have to elaborate too much on how good of a basketball player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. When you go back and you look at the 3 games that the Oklahoma City Thunder lost to the Denver Nuggets, that is by far the toughest series that they played in, right? They sweep the Grizzlies games, and then they play the Timberwolves, who they beat in 5 pretty handily. That series against Denver was tough on them. It was. And when you go back and you look at the losses, in game 1, they lose to the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon hits that amazing transition 3 off of a Chet Holmgren miss free throw. And, he knocks it down. Nuggets win. When you look at the box score of that game, Jalen Williams was 5 of 20 from the floor. He only scored 16 points. Chet Holmgren was 5 of 11 from the floor, and he only scored 12 points. Game 3, they lose on the road against the Nuggets. And it was a weird game. Like, you just kind of, or I at least, expect for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be amazing every night. Game 3 against the Nuggets, he wasn't. It was a very rare Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dud. 7 of 22 from the floor. Jalen Williams was really good in that game. He had 32. Chet Holmgren was fine. 18 points on 7 of 19 shooting isn't great. So game 3 was weird. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finally played a bad game. Game 6, they lose to the Nuggets. And it was because Jalen Williams was terrible. Only 3 of 16 from the floor. He only scored 6 points. He did have 10 assists, to be fair to Jalen Williams. With that being said, if you're 3 of 16 from the floor, I don't want to hear about your assist numbers. You have to make more shots than that. Chet Holmgren was good in that game. He had 19 points and 11 rebounds on 8 of 14 shooting. My point is, if you want to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, you have to slow down Jalen Williams. He can't be good because you know that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is likely going to be great just about every night. Maybe you get lucky and he has a similar game to game 3 against the Nuggets where he shoots 7 of 22 from the floor. But let's just be honest. Most of the time, he's going to be good. And when the Thunder lose games, it's because they don't have a second scoring option. Going back to their series loss last year, when they lose to the Mavericks in the second round and it was a big upset and people just kind of crushed the Thunder after that. When you go back to it, a large part of why they lost that series was because Jalen Williams wasn't good. He averaged 17 points per game on 42% shooting. That's the kind of series the Pacers need from Jalen Williams if they want a chance to come out on top as plus 500 underdogs. Seriously, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Pacers load up on Jalen Williams as opposed to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be great no matter what. You're going to have a better chance of slowing down Jalen Williams than SGA. When it comes to Chet Holmgren, it's kind of tough to load up on him because the Thunder don't really run plays for him. He scores off effort and moving to the right spot kind of within the flow of the offense. So it's kind of tough to load up on him and slow him down because they're not like running Chet Holmgren isolations. Whereas Jalen Williams is going to have stretches with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander both on and off the floor where he initiates the offense and he's trusted to make decisions. So it's a little bit easier to slow him down, and the Pacers will have to if they want a chance to win this series. And I talked a lot yesterday about the advantage that the Pacers have in this series and how Rick Carlisle is going to play a major, major role. And I was scrolling the other day on Twitter. And I hate my algorithm on X sometimes. Or I guess not my algorithm, my feed, because I get all this, because like my feed knows how much I like basketball, and so I get these like trolly LeBron James isn't the GOAT takes, then I get these trolly Michael Jordan isn't the GOAT takes. It's really annoying. I don't like it, but I did appreciate it yesterday because as I was scrolling, I came across this video, and it was of LeBron James playing against the Dallas Mavericks in the 2011 NBA Finals. I'll never forget it. It's my favorite NBA Finals ever because I grew up a Mavericks fan. I love Dirk. I've got a signed jersey of his. I'm going to hang it up one day when my wife lets me, and it's going to be great. And you could I just remember that series so fondly because the Mavericks did things to the Heat, like they zoned them. And they made LeBron James a jump shooter. And every time he went to the lane, they showed him two bodies and all this kind of stuff. Rick Carlisle just coached a fantastic series against the Miami Heat. A series in which the Mavericks weren't as talented, especially at the top end of their roster. And he found a way to slow down the second best player ever, at a minimum. Maybe you think he's the GOAT. I don't know. I'm not having that conversation with you. And that clip, and just thinking back on that series, it gives me confidence in the Indiana Pacers, in Coach Carlisle, and the rest of his coaching staff to find a way to slow down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Because I've seen him do it before against peak powers, prime LeBron James. And as good as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, I don't think that he's better than the 2011 version of LeBron James. As great as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not that good. And I saw with my own eyes Coach Carlisle slow that dude down over the course of a series. So I still think that is one of the biggest things that the Pacers have going for them. Having a real point guard who is going to help the Pacers not turn the basketball over. And also having a head coach who's been there before and has won an NBA Finals series against one of the best players we've ever seen. Now, we learned a lesson that I've tried to teach in the world of sports gambling has, paid off yesterday. Say, Jonathan, what are you talking about? Frank Ragnow is retiring. If you don't know who that is, he was, the second best center in football for a long time behind Jason Kelce. And last year, he was the best center in football. Played offensive line for a very dominant Detroit Lions team. The dude's only 29 years old. 29-year-olds usually don't retire from the NFL. It's not usually what happens, especially when they're at their peak and they're being named to all pro teams and they're getting voted into the Pro Bowl and they're finally on a good team. The Lions were bad for a majority of Frank Ragnow's career. He's finally on a good team. It's like, all right, this guy's probably going to stick around till he's, 33, 34. No, he retired at the age of 29. This is why we don't bet over under win totals until the season, until the week of or 2 weeks prior to the season starting. Guys retire. A trade's going to be made. I said, Jonathan, how do you know that? Kirk Cousins is going to get traded somewhere. And that's going to impact another team's schedule. That'll impact the over-under win total of whatever team Kirk Cousins gets traded to. Pittsburgh, hello. Probably them. Aaron Rodgers might decide to play football. I don't know if he's going to or not. If he does, then whoever has the Steelers on their schedule just got tougher. And if he doesn't, then the Colts' schedule is easy because they're playing Will Howard or Mason Rudolph or Kirk Cousins at quarterback. The Browns are going to be bad. I don't know what their over-under total is, but I would be more inclined to bet them over if they play Joe Flacco over Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. That matters. You need to wait for all of these things to happen. You also need to wait for injuries. Padded practices haven't even started yet. They haven't. Someone important is going to get hurt. It is going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind. Do you remember Nick Cross last year tackling Josh Downs in 7-on-7, despite being told we do not go to the ground? Josh Downs sprains his ankle, misses the first 2 weeks of the season. Maybe if he's available week 1 against the Texans, maybe the Colts win that game. I don't know. But something like that is going to happen. Someone important is going to tear their ACL or tear their Achilles or break their arm and miss the first 9 weeks of the season or something like that. Wait to make your over-under bets, people. Okay? Now, Indiana football, I do want to talk about them because we are 88 days away from the start of the season. Coach Cignetti had that quote about, how good do you want to be when it comes to NIL and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. NIL, man, like they're always asking for more money. And I get it because the more money you have, in theory, the better you can make your team. I went through Indiana's schedule last night because I was bored. And I'm not bored anymore, though. I bought this book last night. I'm like 50 pages in. It's good. It's good. It's called The American Assassin, and I've had a blast reading it over the last, 12 hours or so. Anyway, their schedule's incredibly easy. They're going to play Old Dominion. It's a win. They're going to play Kennesaw State. It's a win. They're going to play Indiana State. It's another win. They're going to play Illinois. Slightly tougher. That game's at home. They'll probably win that one. Then they're at Iowa, a team who can't score. They'll probably win that one. Then they're at Oregon. That's a loss. They're then going to play Michigan State, who is in the middle of rebuilding. I do believe in head coach Jonathan Smith. I do believe in him and his ability to get things done for the Spartans because he got things turned around at Oregon State. So that game probably going to be a little bit tougher than it was this last year, but that's probably a win. They get UCLA at home. That's probably a win. They're at Maryland. That's probably a win. They're at Penn State. That's probably a loss. They get Wisconsin at home. That's probably a win. And then they play Purdue at Purdue to close the season on November 28th. And that's probably a win. I like Barry Odom. I think he's going to get things trending in the right direction. But with that being said, I don't think Purdue's going to beat Indiana this year. 9-3 or 10-2. That's what we're looking at for Indiana this year. If they're able to repeat what they did last year, it seems like they're going to be able to do that because they've brought in another good transfer quarterback. They're probably going to make the college football playoff this year. And people are going to be really excited about it. Like, 2 years in a row, college football playoff. Let's go. It's not going to do anything for me. I'm telling you that right now. Beat good teams this year. I want to see if Coach Cignetti can actually beat good teams. Because, look, they were good last year. 11-2. You didn't beat anybody good, though. You played two good teams all year. You got your doors blown off twice. Notre Dame, clobbered you. Congratulations. You scored a couple touchdowns with under 2 minutes left when the game was already over. Congratulations. And you made it look close. It wasn't. You got your doors blown off. Played Ohio State on the road. Same thing. You got your doors blown off. Beat good teams this year. Or at least be close. At least be competitive. Because that, to me, is how we're going to measure whether or not Indiana got better from last year to this year in the second year of Curt Cignetti. Because they didn't look like they belonged on the same field as Notre Dame and Ohio State last year. And you say, yeah, well, those were the two best teams in the country. They played for the national championship. Okay, sure. That's cool. But just be competitive this year. All right, like when you go to Oregon, be tough, be competitive. Don't lose by 3 touchdowns. Keep it close. Like let's go. Like, at least give yourself a chance to win that game. Don't make me turn it off before the fourth quarter starts, like I did against Ohio State and Notre Dame. Same thing when you go to Penn State. That team's going to be really good again this year. Don't make me turn it off before the fourth quarter starts. That's all I ask. Be competitive in those tough games. I'm not even asking you to win them because it's only year 2. I just want to see Indiana take a step in the right direction under Curt Cignetti. Please do more than beat bad teams and brag about it. When we come back at the top of the hour, 11 o'clock, we will get into the 10 best players in this Indiana Pacers versus Oklahoma City Thunder NBA Finals. Can't wait for it. Thursday night, it all gets going. Top 10 Tuesday when we come back here in about 3.5 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there and watch the show there. Maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, Top 10 Tuesday. Haven't done this in a while. Don't worry. It's the summer. It'll be back in full force as after the NBA Finals ends, and there's just a little bit less going on in the sports world. 10 best players in this series. We did it. I think I've done this before every series that the Pacers have played in. And I couldn't decide on who deserved that 10th spot. Couldn't decide on it. Originally, I was like, Miles Turner. And I was like, wait, Isaiah Hartenstein. I was like, Miles Turner. No, I think Isaiah. No, I don't know. So I put them both. I did. Put Miles Turner / Isaiah Hartenstein because I think they're kind of similar in terms of not really what they're asked to do, but in terms of their impact. And it's really just a flavor thing. Both guys protect the rim well. They can struggle defending guys on the perimeter, pretty normal. And they can both score when they're set up properly. Isaiah Hartenstein's a better passer. Pacers don't really ask for Miles Turner to do a bunch of playmaking, so kind of tough to make a difference between both of them there. But my thing is, I think I'd rather have the three-point shooting and the extra floor spacing that Miles Turner provides compared to Isaiah Hartenstein, where he's really only going to score from the free throw line and in. I also wouldn't be surprised if Isaiah Hartenstein got played off the floor in this series. That's also part of why I think I'm leaning Miles Turner for that 10th spot, because the Pacers are going to spread it out. Hartenstein needs to be around the rim defensively and all that good stuff. Okay, so I think I'm going to put Miles Turner in that 10th spot just because I don't think he's going to get played off the floor. He can't. He's the Pacers' only real center, and he's going to protect the rim, and he's going to knock down threes. And I want the spacing and the extra shooting that Miles Turner provides compared to Isaiah Hartenstein. Number 9, Alex Caruso. Been all defense in his career twice. I think he's the Thunder's best defender. Just period, on or off the ball. I mean, you can say what you want about Lou Dort and the fact that Lou Dort was first team all defense this year. That's cool. But the Thunder didn't ask Lou Dort to defend Nikola Jokic. They asked Alex Caruso to do that. They did. He is an outstanding defender. That is how he's made his mark in the NBA. He can guard not anyone, but he can guard a lot of dudes, and he does it really well, and he does it consistently. Lou Dort probably going to defend Tyrese Haliburton the most. Alex Caruso also going to defend Tyrese Haliburton a lot. He is, because he's that level of a defender. He's also shot the ball really well in these playoffs. He is also the Thunder's most experienced player, won a title with the Lakers in the bubble. That's cool. It's the bubble, not really the same thing as actually playing in front of real people, so we'll see how he performs in his first real NBA Finals. Number 8, got Aaron Nesmith. He's probably going to guard Jalen Williams because he's their best wing defender. Mathurin will probably get that matchup a little bit in this series as well, but it's going to be a lot of Aaron Nesmith. Hopefully he's resting up. Hopefully that ankle is doing a little bit better. I know he banged up his knee in Game 6 as well. Hopefully he is moving in the proper direction when it comes to being fully healthy, because he's got to be good in this series. He has to defend Jalen Williams or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm sure he'll get time on both, right? And if he's good offensively, if he's knocking down threes, if he's running and getting to the rim, if he's attacking closeouts well like we've seen him do, then he's going to play a huge role in the Pacers potentially winning the series. Andrew Nembhard is the 7th best player in the series. He is going to defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He is. He's going to draw that assignment, at least early in the series, We'll see if they change it as the series goes on. Hopefully, good luck, man. Like, good luck. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's a stud. He's going to get to his spots and he's going to score. Question is, can Andrew Nembhard just make it hard on him? He usually does. He's a good defender. He'll probably be an all defensive guy at some point throughout his career because he's that good. The question for me when it comes to Andrew Nembhard is the defense. I love Andrew Nembhard. Is the offense. I love Andrew Nembhard. He was great in Game 6 against the Knicks. And it was because they got the Knicks to switch the matchup and they put Jalen Brunson on him as opposed to OG Anunoby. There is no Jalen Brunson level defender that is going to play real minutes for the Thunder in this series. Every single guy can guard. And if they put Cason Wallace on him, how is he going to deal with that? If they put Alex Caruso on him, how is he going to deal with that? If it's Luke Dort, if it's Jalen Williams, how is he going to deal with great on-ball defenders defending him? Because we saw him against OG Anunoby, one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. And it didn't go very well. Can he be impactful on offense? Especially when Tyrese Haliburton is off the floor. That to me is going to be a major thing in this series. Number 6, Lu Dort. First team all defense and a 40% three-point shooter. He is the Thunder's best defender by reputation. I would still opt for Alex Caruso, but if you wanted to tell me it was Lu Dort, I get it. The guy, it's really weird. Lu Dort shot 40% from 3 this year, and teams just leave him open. It's kind of like, yeah, you go right ahead and shoot that, buddy. And he usually makes them because he's a 40% three-point shooter. So we'll see how the Pacers decide to defend him. It may just be a thing where it's like we would rather Lu Dort beat us than Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's probably what it is. But, hopefully that guy isn't making shots because, man, if he's making threes and, Holmgren and Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are all playing well, this Thunder team just feels impossible to beat at that point. The 5th best player in this series is Pascal Siakam. Your Eastern Conference Finals MVP, the Pacers' best isolation scorer, probably just their best scorer in general. He's got to continue to be awesome. He had 4 30-point games all regular season long. He had 3 30-point games in the series against the Knicks alone. He's got to have a similar level series to what he had against the Knicks. He's got to have games where he can just go get 30. The Pacers have to identify early who he likes having defend him and who he doesn't. I think that the Thunder are probably going to start with Chet Holmgren on him. Maybe it's Isaiah Hartenstein because in theory you would want a bigger dude defending Siakam because he likes to post up a little bit more. With that being said, the length of Chet Holmgren would give Pascal Siakam issues in the post. And he also has the foot speed to stay in front of Siakam when he drives right and tries to spin back left because that's what Pascal Siakam wants to do whenever he has the basketball. He wants to go right and spin back left, preferably from the left wing. And Chet Holmgren's a guy who could give him issues. If it's Isaiah Hartenstein, Siakam's going to go by him. That's just what's going to happen. So, they'll have to figure out early kind of how to get the switches and the mismatches that they want. Like if they got Lu Dort on him, is Siakam going to be comfortable with that? Lu Dort's a thicker dude. They're probably going to try to get Cason Wallace matched up on Siakam just because he's smaller, probably a little bit of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as well, just because he's smaller. And we'll kind of see how Siakam deals with that. But he's got to get into favorable matchups and score. And more importantly, not turn the ball over whenever that happens. Because when he, goes downhill a little bit, when he gets going and when he gets in his bag, as the kids say, it's going to make me nervous every time. Because if you watch the Thunder play against the Timberwolves, what felt like every time, the Timberwolves isolated Julius Randle in the mid-post, very similar to how the Pacers isolate Pascal Siakam in the mid-post. It felt like Julius Randle turned the ball over every time. That's what it felt like. And Pascal Siakam kind of has a similar game to Julius Randle in that spot. He has to avoid turning the basketball over because the Thunder are going to send two. They've got really good hands, and they just understand passing lanes really, really well. So he's got to avoid turning the basketball over whenever he isolates. Number 4, Chet Holmgren. Going to be an all NBA guy at some point. Going to be an all defensive guy at some point as well, I believe. He defends the rim. He can score at all 3 levels. I mean, look, the dude was the number 2 overall pick. Like, do I really have to fully elaborate on who Chet Holmgren is as a basketball player? He can put it on the deck. He can pull it from mid-range. He finishes at the rim really well. He's a decent 3-point shooter. He can miss free throws sometimes. That's really the only weakness in his game. He's a little smaller, so we'll kind of see how he deals with Miles Turner if he gets matched up on him. He'll be fine because he's Chet Holmgren. He's one of the best players in the NBA. Third best player in the series is Jalen Williams. Second team All-NBA this year. Second team All-Defense. Just a fantastic two-way player. No way around it. A guy who was really good against Minnesota. That's why they won the series 4-1. He wasn't bad. Except for one game where everyone on the Oklahoma City Thunder was bad, and that was game 3. Outside of that, he was awesome. He's making threes. He's getting to the rim. He's making the right decisions, and the Pacers have to find a way to disrupt him. Number 2, second best player in the series is Tyrese Haliburton. He's the Pacers' best player. He is. He is the Pacers' best player, and yeah, I think he's the second best player in this series. His ability to create shots not only for himself but also for his teammates. That's what makes him, to me, better than Jalen Williams. He's developed as a defender. He was named to the All-NBA team for the second year in a row, and he has to guard in this series because the Thunder, they're going to pick on him, or they're going to try to, right? They're going to try to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander matched up on him from time to time. How does he hold up in those spots? And I don't expect him to get stops in those spots because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP and he's the best player in this series. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But can he just make it tough? Can he make him hit that 12-foot jumper with a hand in his face as opposed to with 5 feet of separation from Haliburton? Can he just find a way to make it tough? Because I think offensively he's going to be fine. He's that good of an offensive player. The way that he plays, he's a little bit tougher to corral because of how much he moves the ball and how good of a passer he is. And yeah. So Haliburton, can he defend? Can he hold his own? Can he, do what he's done all playoffs long, and that's create shots for his teammates? The Pacers haven't lost a playoff game in which Tyrese Haliburton has 10 assists or more. And they're, 25-3 or whatever it is when he scores 20 points or more in a game. Can he score, and can he continue to create easy shots for his teammates? I think he can. I just think he's that good of a player. I think that he's a savant. That's what I called him earlier. He has this innate ability to just understand things and to know where people are going to be. And it is just, it's incredible. And so I expect him to be fine. He may struggle early in the series, but as he figures out coverages, as he figures out what the Oklahoma City Thunder defense wants him to do, he will get better as the series goes on. I think that Game 5 and Game 6 of the series against the Knicks is a really good example of this. Game 5, the Knicks change their coverage. Haliburton struggles. Pacers lose. And then Game 6, he comes out. He knows what the Knicks are wanting him to do, and he beats the coverage. It just took him a game to figure it out. So I think as the series progresses and Haliburton is able to sit back and look at this Thunder defense and figure out what he can and can't do, and more importantly, what his teammates can and can't do in the series, then I expect for him to be better as the series goes on. But the best player in the series, it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't think I need to elaborate on why the MVP of the league is the best player in the series, but I'm going to anyway. This is a guy who scores at will. He scores at will. He can get to his spots whenever he wants to. It's incredible. Okay? And I just That guy is a treat to watch. People complain about him all the time. All the time. People love to complain about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they call him a free throw merchant and all these things. The dude goes to the rim all the time. And it takes me back to where we started with Miles Turner. Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant and, Bradley, whoever's playing center, whoever the big on the floor is for the Pacers, they have to be good at the rim. They have to protect the rim without fouling. Because, I think that the patented Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shot is that little pull up from mid-range, right? Or his step back from mid-range. When people think about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think that their thoughts go to his ability to score from mid-range. It's not who he is. It's a large part of who he is. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the NBA in drive attempts per game. That dude's going to the rim. He's going to get there. He got there more than any other player in the NBA. And when you're playing against an offensive player like that, I think part of why he had so much success against Denver is because Denver didn't have a rim protector. The Thunder went not small, but they played Chet Holmgren at the 5 a lot. And, Rudy Gobert defending Chet Holmgren means Chet Holmgren can't hang out around the rim. So whoever is playing center for the Pacers, whoever is around the rim, they have to be able to contest without fouling. And they just have to make things tough on him because he wants to get to the rim, and you have to have some sort of resistance there if you want to slow down the best. Nope. The best player in the series, but the guy who had the second best season in the NBA this year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So that is your Top 10 Tuesday, the 10 best players in the NBA Finals. Once again, I will run you through it one more time. Number 10, I would say Miles Turner. If you wanted to tell me it was Isaiah Hartenstein, I would get it. 9, Caruso. 8, Aaron Nesmith. 7, Andrew Nembhard. 6, Lou Dort. 5, Pascal Siakam. 4, Chet Holmgren. 3, Jalen Williams. Number 2, Tyrese Haliburton. And then number 1, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Speaking of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Haliburton, they were both acquired via trade. And I've seen people call this NBA Finals the Paul George Bowl because both teams kind of rebuilt their rosters by trading Paul George. It's funny. Not really. It's really more annoying than anything else. And the Pacers' rebuild around Tyrese Haliburton is incredible. Most teams don't rebuild in 3 years. They don't go from a 3-year playoff drought to making the Eastern Conference Finals to then making the NBA Finals. Like, that does not happen over a 5-year span. It doesn't. And it's incredible what Kevin Pritchard and his front office has done. It's amazing what Sam Presti and the front office in Oklahoma City has done. Nothing short of incredible. And I've got so many thoughts on the Pacers and this rebuild. And Coach Carlisle said something very interesting the other day about the rebuild, about Tyrese Haliburton. And I've got that audio for you when we come back here in about 3.5 minutes.
minutes in today's sports world. It's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there, or maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. The Indiana Pacers are set to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder in this year's NBA Finals. The finals action starts on Thursday, which is just forever away. Like, can we not just play tonight? Like, they're there. They're in Oklahoma City. Like, come on, let's start playing. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. And there's been a lot of discussion about the Paul George trades and how that has kind of fueled these rebuilds. And it's really annoying because I'm just so sick and tired of hearing about Paul George. I'm tired of seeing, I think his podcast is called Podcast P and all this kind of stuff. Like, he doesn't play in games. He's never won anything. I'm done with all that. And I just love that the Pacers' current star, Tyrese Haliburton, he's the antithesis of Paul George. He's not about himself. He's about the team. I think he actually wants to be here long term. I don't think he's the type to be like, I want to be here long term and then force his way out, because that's what Paul George did. And it seems like he wants to be here. And I'm sure the fact that they've rebuilt this thing so quickly and they've found a way to get to the NBA Finals, I'm sure that that's part of why he wants to be here. And I think that Tyrese Haliburton actually feels a lot like Indy. When I moved here, I didn't think Indianapolis was going to be a very fun place. I wasn't very excited about it, but, I ended up here, and I was like, oh, this city's pretty cool. I like living here. I like going downtown. St. Elmo's is pretty great. Oasis and Plainfield, pretty awesome. So I showed up, and I realized how great the city is, and I think Tyrese Haliburton's kind of similar. I think casual viewers didn't realize how much flair and how much swagger this dude has. Like, the celebrations are awesome. The no-look passes are really cool. Like, he's awesome. But if you don't watch him consistently, you would never know that. People in the Midwest, people in Indianapolis are stereotyped as friendly. Tyrese Haliburton seems like a friendly dude. He's got a nice smile. My buddy, huge Kings fan, whenever we talk about the Pacers, whenever we talk about Tyrese Haliburton, he talks about when Haliburton was in Sacramento, everything he did for the Sacramento community. The clips of him before the season started, walking around Kroger's, handing out gift cards and things, was really cool. And the biggest thing, though, is the fact that Tyrese Haliburton and the city of Indianapolis both love basketball. The city of Indianapolis is just infatuated with basketball. And Tyrese Haliburton is a basketball savant. You can see it in the way that he plays. There's a short list of NBA players that I would actually call basketball savants. There's plenty of NBA players who can score or stand in the corner and make a three. There's plenty who can set a screen and roll to the rim. Those guys aren't savants. Those guys are specialists. They are not basketball savants. Savants are the ones who can do everything and just think through the game better. Players like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, Tyrese Haliburton belongs on that list as well. I believe that Tyrese Haliburton can play any style he wants to. Any style you want. You can run the James Harden offense and have Haliburton dribble the air out of the ball and score a whole bunch and rack up a ton of assists as well. You can play a slow it down, grind it out, screen and roll, 98 possessions a game kind of offense. But he's at his best when his team plays fast. And I think most great point guards are like that. Jason Kidd and Steve Nash, I think that they could play any style. They were just at their best when they got out and ran. Tyrese Haliburton is the exact same way. And the Pacers have done everything that they can to surround Tyrese Haliburton with players who can run and shoot. Here is Indiana Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle after Game 6 against the Knicks, talking about how Tyrese Haliburton gave them an identity when they were rebuilding.
If you have the right player to build around, it can happen much faster than you think. And so getting Tyrese made it very clear what our identity as a team needed to be. We needed to be a fast-paced team with shooting. And we had some good shooting at the time. But, when we did the Brogdon trade, that brought Nesmith on board. Nembhard was a developing player. Mathurin shoots the ball well. Walker shoots the ball well. And Shepard is a guy that is a great runner and a great shooter. And then look, the Siakam trade took things to another level. And it took Pascal, a couple of weeks to get integrated because, they weren't playing this fast in Toronto. But he did, and he got integrated while Tyrese was coming back from the hamstring last year. And, there were some clunky moments. And we were on the West Coast at the time. And so, but, we got it together down the stretch, and we won our last game of the season to avoid the play-in. And we're able to go on a run, and certainly we were aided by the fact that there were some missing players with other teams, but you still got to win the games. You still got to go into Madison Square Garden and win Game 7, and on the road. And those guys did that, and we had a humbling experience against Boston, but we learned some things, and those things have helped us this year.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about this rebuilding process and just everything that went into it. And he talked about the importance of having a guy in Tyrese Haliburton who immediately defines who you are. From the moment they added Tyrese Haliburton on February 8th, 2022, everything has been about adding/keeping speed and shooting. It helps when you get Buddy Hield in the trade as well. 2 days later, they made a trade for Jalen Smith. He wasn't around long, but he's a big dude who could step out and shoot it. That summer, they moved Malcolm Brogdon, and they added Aaron Nesmith. Aaron Nesmith, very athletic. He can get out and run. He can also shoot. Then 18 months ago, wait, nope. 1 second. I skipped one. My bad. Following summer, they trade for Obi Toppin, another player who can really get out and run and be good on the break, but he's turned into a pretty good shooter as well. Then 18 months ago, they make the trade for Pascal Siakam. And all that dude did was run and score against the Knicks. He's also turned in the best three-point shooting season of his career this year. Last year, they made a late-season trade for Doug McDermott. He could shoot it. This December, they make a trade for Thomas Bryant amidst all of the backup center injuries that the Pacers went through. A center, and Thomas Bryant's a center who can knock down a corner three. And then you look at the way that they've drafted. What have they drafted over these past 2 years? Speed and athleticism. Andrew Nembhard is the only player that they've drafted that's, not great off the ball in transition and isn't a good three-point shooter. Everyone else, Benedict Mathurin, very athletic. He can get out. He can run. He can score. He's a decent shooter. Jarris Walker, very good athlete, who's also shot 40% from three, both this year and last year in his rookie season. Ben Shepard, it's a guy who can really shoot it. Johnny Furphy, it's a player who projects as an elite shooter at some point during his career. Andrew Nembhard, the only guy who's not that, but when you bring in Tyrese Haliburton, you know that he has to have a guard alongside him who can really defend. And that is what Andrew Nembhard has turned into, despite not really being that in college. He is the perfect running mate for Tyrese Haliburton. This rebuild from the Pacers has been incredible. The Charlotte Hornets, Sacramento Kings, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Chicago Bulls, the Washington Wizards, and the Utah Jazz, they've all been bad for so long. And all of them have had a high draft pick at one point or another, and they're still bad. The Pacers rebuilt in 3 years. They had a 3-year playoff drought. In the fourth year, last year, they returned to the NBA playoffs, and they made the Eastern Conference Finals, right? And they get swept by the Celtics And, even though they got swept, it was a close series. Every game went down to the wire. And then this year, the 5th year since the rebuild started, they're in the NBA Finals. This has been one of the fastest and most impressive rebuilds we've ever seen from an NBA team. The Thunder are loaded as well, and they've had a very impressive rebuild. It took them forever to get to this point. Seriously, it has. And when you look at the Pacers, 3 years after not making the playoffs, they've put together these very impressive back-to-back seasons. And none of this happens without the Phoenix Suns. You say, Jonathan, why are you bringing up the Phoenix Suns? They didn't make any trades with them. They didn't do anything. No. But the Suns saved the Pacers from what would have been a pretty big mistake. You remember a couple off seasons ago when the Pacers offered DeAndre Ayton the max and the Suns matched? That meant that DeAndre Ayton never became a Pacer. Could you imagine if the money that Pascal Siakam was getting was currently going to the backup center in Portland? If they'd made that acquisition, they probably would have moved Miles Turner. I don't think that the Pacers would be in the NBA Finals if that was the case. So shout out to the Phoenix Suns for making sure the Pacers didn't add DeAndre Ayton. There's always a little bit of luck in every rebuild, right? That was the Pacers. For the Thunder, Jalen Williams is a stud, and they got him with the 12th pick. In most drafts, Chet Holmgren would have gone number 1, but he went number 2 the year that the Thunder had the 2nd pick. Also, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't projected to be this. He's just blossomed into a real unique superstar. It's amazing to me to see how these two teams have rebuilt. I get it. They both moved Paul George, but aside from that, they've just rebuilt their teams in completely different ways. The Thunder have done a lot of it through the draft, and the Pacers have done a lot of their rebuilding through trades. But both of these teams more than deserve to be here based on how they've rebuilt. They've both been incredibly smart, and I like seeing smart front offices get rewarded. Hopefully, us fans are rewarded with a great NBA Finals. We'll see if it is or not. The Pacers are plus 500 for a reason. But with that being said, they were big underdogs against Cleveland, and they found a way to win that series. Guys get hurt. Adjustments get made. I still think that Coach Carlisle is the better coach in this series, and I think he's going to play a big role in whether or not the Pacers are able to win this series. We'll see. But the Thunder are incredibly tough, and I'll tell you why they're so tough when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter Get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith. If you want to follow me there, maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. You can not only listen to me there, but you can listen to the Dan Dockett Show there as well every day from noon to 3. And the Pacers continue their march for an NBA title on Thursday as the NBA Finals are set to begin. And it's a tough battle. It's so tough because this Thunder team is magnificent. It is. There's a pretty firm reason why the Thunder, are heavy favorites. There's a reason why the Indiana Pacers are plus 500 underdogs in this series. Toughest thing about playing the Pacers is the pace of which they play. You always have to be locked in defensively because if you score on the Pacers, they're going to run the ball right back down your throats. If they force a stop, they're going to run. Even in the half court, they continue to play with a very frenetic pace. Miles Turner is setting screens and popping out, trying to hit a three, and Aaron Nesmith is setting screens, and then he's running around like a madman, and Pascal Siakam is posting up or screening or initiating in some sort of like inverted screen and roll. Andrew Nembhard is rolling or spacing to the corner, or he's initiating the offense. And if he's initiating the offense, then that means that Tyrese Haliburton's running around all over the place. It's fast-paced. It's frenetic. It is controlled chaos. Every player on this Pacers team is always doing something. It is very rare for this Pacers offense to ever reach a point where everyone is standing around just watching someone pound the air out of the ball. The ball usually has energy, and when the ball has energy, it's usually easier to score. That is the toughest thing about playing the Indiana Pacers. You and I know that because you and I have watched this Pacers team play all year. What about Thunder? What is the toughest part about playing against the Oklahoma City Thunder? Some people would say that it's defending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this year's MVP. I would firmly disagree with that. The toughest thing about playing the Oklahoma City Thunder is dealing with the waves of defensive guards that they have. They have 3 guards that could legitimately be all defensive selections. 2 of them already have been. 1 of them is going to be at some point. Lou Dort was first team all defense this year. Alex Caruso has been named to all defensive teams in the past. And Cason Wallace will be named to an all defensive team at some point in his career. And Coach Carlisle went on the Pat McAfee show yesterday to, talk about the upcoming series. And he was asked about the Thunder. So here's Coach Carlisle talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder stars and this ferocious defense that they play.
I mean, they're great. They've got the MVP. They've got Jalen Williams, who's a second star. They've got Chet Holmgren, who's really their third star, and then they've got a supporting cast that's really, really good, and they really defend. Caruso and Dort, Williams and Gilgeous-Alexander. These guys are all elite defenders, and not only do they defend well, but they take the ball from the opponent. And so I believe during the playoffs they've been number 1 in points off turnovers. So a lot of this for us, we're going to have to do a good job with ball security. I know that's a football term too. We're going to have to take care of it on the one hand, but we're going to have to play fast, and we're going to have to move it around a lot, and we're going to have to rebound it, because the possession stats in every sport really do carry the day.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about this Oklahoma City Thunder team and this Oklahoma City Thunder defense and just how tough they are. Some people would say, this just bothers me. So I'm going to chase this rabbit for 30 seconds and then get back on track. People that call Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a great defender really bother me, because he's not a great defender. He's a good one. Don't get me wrong. He's a better defender than Tyrese Haliburton. But to think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is on the same level as Alex Caruso and Lou Dort and Cason Wallace and some of the other better perimeter defenders in the league, to me, it's just a load of hooey. He's a good defender, but I think he appears better than he is because he's never defending the other team's best player. He's always defending the other team's 4th option on the floor, while Jalen Williams and one of those other 3 players that I mentioned are defending the real offensive threats on the other team. Okay? Anyway, all of these great guard and perimeter defenders that the Thunder have in the swarming defense makes it a requirement to have a real point guard if you're going to play the Thunder. Every NBA team, almost every NBA team looks like, your local middle school team's basketball team. Because in middle school basketball, your best player brings the ball up the floor. In the NBA now, your best player brings the ball up the floor. A lot of teams don't play with a real point guard. They don't. And that hurts you when you play against this Thunder team. I firmly believe that if the Timberwolves had allowed for Mike Conley to actually be the point guard and to run their offense and not play off the ball 90% of the time, they would have been better off. The issue is Anthony Edwards has never had to play off the ball. And so that wasn't going to work. And so Anthony Edwards would bring the ball off the floor, and because he's never really had to play point guard, he would struggle to get the Timberwolves into the flow of their offense against the Thunder. Part of why the Nuggets had so much success against the Thunder was because even though Nikola Jokic is a center, he can play point guard, which is a really weird thing to say. But he was actually able to put the Nuggets in their offense. He was able to get everybody where they were supposed to be, and they were able to run their stuff. And then when he went off the floor, and it was Jamal Murray's job to get the Nuggets into their offense. By the way, Jamal Murray, not a point guard, he's a shooting guard. Their offense went to crap. Having Tyrese Haliburton, a real point guard. Having Andrew Nembhard, a guy who's played point guard for the Pacers, played point guard for 4 years in college. That is going to be huge in this series. It's a large part of why the Pacers don't turn the basketball over despite passing the ball as much as any other team in the NBA. Most teams that don't turn the basketball over look like the Oklahoma City Thunder offense. We're going to give the ball to our best player, and we're not going to move the ball that much. The Pacers are an anomaly, given how much they pass the ball and how little they turn it over. And the fact that they have these 2 point guards who can really play point guard is huge, because the Pacers aren't going to have these stretches that the Timberwolves and the Nuggets had when Jokic was off the floor, where they have like 4 or 5 straight possessions where they look up and there's 8 seconds left on the shot clock and they still haven't started their offense. That is the value of having a real point guard against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Pacers also shouldn't turn the ball over as much as the Thunder's opponents did because they have a real point guard. That's going to be so important in this series, as you heard Coach Carlisle talk about in that clip from yesterday when he went on the Matt McAfee show. And the one guy that I'm very intrigued to see how he handles the series is TJ McConnell. I love TJ McConnell. I know every Indiana Pacer fan loves TJ McConnell. I know everyone that sees everyone that sees the Pacers play, they immediately fall in love with TJ McConnell because he plays hard and everyone loves a short white dude who can get buckets. TJ McConnell's a good player. But this doesn't seem like a great series for him. He can dribble himself into trouble. We saw him do it a few times in that series against the Knicks. And there's a lot of trouble to be found in this series against this Thunder defense. How does TJ McConnell handle running the offense against this pressure when all of his offense happens within 10 feet of the basket? Every time Pascal Siakam and Benedict Mathurin put the ball on the deck to go to the rim, I'm going to get really concerned, because every time Julius Randle put the ball on the deck to go to the rim against the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, it felt like it resulted in a turnover or a bad shot. And Mathurin and Siakam are guys who want to go to the rim, and the Thunder are the best team in the league at having active hands and reaching in and pulling the ball away and then running the other direction. So how do the guys for the Pacers, the TJ McConnells, the Benedict Mathurins, and the Pascal Siakams, how do they deal with this very handsy Thunder team that is great at stripping dudes when they're driving to the bucket? That is a very important element of this series that I'm very intrigued to see how it goes. Here's what's really going to happen, though. I think that when Tyrese Haliburton is on the floor, the Pacers are going to look like they belong. That's what it's going to look like. But when he's off the floor, that will be the question. That will feel like the opening for the Thunder to stack turnovers and fast break points, because they, like the Pacers, want to play in transition off of turnovers. They are cool with the pace being fast, which is so interesting because when the Pacers played the Bucks, the Bucks wanted to play a little bit slower. When they played the Knicks wanted to play at a slower pace. When they played the Cavaliers wanted to play like kind of fast, but not as fast as the Pacers wanted to play. The Thunder are like, cool, man. You want to run up and down and turn this thing into a track meet? We have the depth to match you. In fact, we encourage this pace. So I'm so intrigued to see how the Thunder not deal with this, or how they really embrace the pace of the Pacers. And do they try to slow it down? Because let's just be honest, the Thunder's half-court offense is probably better than the Pacers, because they're just going to give the ball to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and say, hey, man, go score. He's going to be like, all right, I got you. And then he'll just go score because he's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and there's not a dude on this planet who can guard him. It's really incredible watching that guy play basketball. So very intrigued to see what the pace looks like and how the Pacers look when Tyrese Haliburton's off the floor. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw Haliburton play 40 minutes a night in this series. That's how important I think his decision-making is going to be against this very tough Oklahoma City Thunder defense. So the Pacers have to avoid turnovers, and they have to find a way to slow down Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be good every night. Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren may not be, though. When you look at the 3 games that they lost to the Nuggets, I don't care about their one loss to Minnesota. It was a human nature, back against the wall kind of win for Minnesota in that game. The Nuggets games were not. The game one loss to the Nuggets, Jalen Williams was 5 of 20, and he only scored 16 points. Chet Holmgren was 5 of 11. He only scored 12. Game 3, when the Thunder lost to the Nuggets again, it was a rare Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dud. He was 7 for 22 in that game. Jalen Williams was actually pretty good. He had 32. But Chet Holmgren wasn't. He only had 18 points on 7 of 19 shooting. He wasn't good in that game either. Their Game 6 loss to the Nuggets came when Jalen Williams was only 3 of 16 from the field for 6 points. He did have 10 assists, but when you're 3 of 16 from the field, I don't really care about your assist numbers. Chet Holmgren, he was pretty good in Game 6 against Denver. My point is, if you want to beat the Thunder, you have to slow down Jalen Williams. If he and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are both good, you're probably not going to beat him. When the Thunder lose, it's because they don't have a consistent second scoring option. And Jalen Williams is supposed to be that second scoring option. Going back to last year, they were favorites to beat the Mavericks in the second round of the playoffs. And they didn't win that series, in part because Jalen Williams really struggled. 17 points per game on 42% shooting. That's the kind of series the Pacers are going to have to hold him to if they want a chance to come out on top as plus 500 underdogs. So I'll be very intrigued to see what they do to try to stack this defense against, Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I got a lot of faith in Coach Carlisle. I saw him do it against LeBron James and Dwayne Wade in 2011. He found a way to slow those guys down. Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are both awesome. They're not better than 2011 LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. So I still think Coach Carlisle is the biggest advantage that the Pacers have in this series, and the fact that they have 2 real point guards is big as well. Hopefully that'll help them keep the turnovers down, because they have to do that if they want to win this series. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll be back again tomorrow from 10 to noon. Zach Peerless of CBS Sports is scheduled to come on tomorrow to talk a little bit of Pacers and Thunder. The Dan Hawkins Show is coming your way next, noon to 3. Keep it right here. Download that Indy Sports Ticket app as well. If you want to listen to the show, subscribe to the Indy Sports Ticket YouTube page, and I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.